Hi guys, today I want to share 11 uncommon tips that might help you pass better as a trans guy. I do want to give a bit of a heads up that most of these will be based on stereotypes because that's just how people assume gender if they meet someone. So a bit of a heads up. Also, you better like this video because I'm filming this despite having really bad voice dysphoria. And I'm also editing this despite having really bad voice dysphoria. So make my suffering count and like it and share it with people and comment. So yes, now let's get into the video. The first tip I have for you is work out. I know it's something a lot of you don't want to hear, but it really helps. For example, when we look at the shoulders of people who are assigned female at birth, they're a lot more narrow compared to shoulders that are assigned of people who are assigned male at birth. The way we can fix that is by training our shoulder muscles so that they grow bigger, so that essentially we mimic that male shoulder broadness that they have just through their bones essentially. But it's not just shoulders. Training your entire body can give it a more male and a more athletic experience. I've even seen some people that, for example, managed to work their chest out so much that they gave themselves DIY top surgery. However, that does require a lot of work, but even just a little bit goes a long way. However, there are some exercises that you should avoid as a trans guy and some muscle groups that you should avoid training to stop that dysphoria. Okay, so the first exercise that you should avoid are Russian twists. Basically, you go like this and you go from side to side. The reason why you should avoid that is because they train basically side muscles and basically they make you look more skinny in the waist, kind of giving you more of an hourglass shape. And a lot of trans guys don't want that. The second muscle group that you should avoid training is your thighs and your glutes. Since people who are assigned female at birth and go through female puberty often have wider hips, making their thighs and their hips obviously look bigger. So kind of avoid training these so that you can also avoid that wide curvy figure that is often found in women. One thing that I do suggest you train though is your calves, because if you have bigger calves, your leg will look less like this and more straight. A good way that I found to train my calf is basically just doing calf raises. You go like this, you lift yourself up and you go back down. You repeat that a few times and essentially until you're sore, and after some time that should really help work out your calves. Some other exercises that may help are push-ups. There are many different types of push-ups, all kind of target different areas, but all like the upper body, chest, back, and your arms, which can really help to masculinize your body. But to work out doesn't just mean lift heavy stuff, because even though that is the thing that's gonna help you the most, a lot of people just find doing that repetition again and again really boring. So what can you do instead? You can pick up sports, especially sports that help you gain muscle. For example, climbing is a good option. But also things like martial arts really help to kind of give you that more masculine illusion. Also, if you do martial arts, you can kind of brag more about that. So yeah. You can find many different tutorials on, just like here on YouTube already, that can show you how you can train specific muscles like your shoulders, your chest, your abs, your biceps, your triceps or underarm muscles, and your back, because those are the things we're going to focus on most. The second tip I want to give you is voice train. Even if you aren't on TV, there are ways to make your voice sound more masculine and kind of deeper, darker, more monotone. You can find plenty of tutorials here on YouTube. You do have to be really consistent with that to see long-term results. A lot of the tutorials you'll find are male to female instead of female to male. However, there are some good ones that are female to male instead of the other way around. And you can kind of look at those male to female videos and turn around what they're saying to make it apply to you. So if they, for example, just say speak in a kind of head voice, you can take that advice, turn it around, and Speak more if with a chest voice. The third tip to help you really pass, which is often ignored, is to have more masculine mannerisms. What are masculine mannerisms, you may ask? For example, take up space while sitting. Also, if you stand, don't stand like this. Stand like this, because people who are assigned male at birth have balls, and these balls need space, and you need to pretend that you have balls so that people read you as a guy. That is something that is very important, that is often underestimated. And not just in standing with a wider leg, but also in sitting, have your legs spread and not close together. There are also other things like appear more confident. That doesn't mean you have to be confident, that means other people have to think you're confident. So basically walk straighter, kind of carry yourself in a more confident manner. That can really take some practice sometimes, especially if you kind of shy or things like that. But it really does help in giving that more masculine look. Another factor that I want to talk about is hair. Okay, we've heard 1,000 times, if your hair is long, toss it in a beanie, throw it over to make it look like you have bangs. I'm not going to repeat that advice here. However, what if you actually have the ability to cut your hair? What should and shouldn't you do? First of all, one thing that you shouldn't do is go to a barber. I'm sorry, but cut your hair yourself, learn to cut it yourself. I have had short hair for most of my life, few exceptions here and there, few years always, but for the most part I've had short hair. And if you are not 100% male passing and you go in there and are like, hey, can I have a short haircut, that barber will be like, yeah, sure, I'll do that, and then they'll give you something that still looks more feminine than what you asked for. I myself am planning on doing a tutorial on my haircut soon when my hair's in need for another cut, so watch out for that if you're interested. Also, I want to point out that just because your hair is short doesn't mean it's feminine. There are plenty of styles that, if you have short hair, still count as feminine haircuts. So do a bit of research. Also, look up what looks good on your face, because there are different face shapes, different hairstyles that can kind of help with that, or help make your face shape look more masculine, or vice versa, where your face shape helps make your hair look more masculine. So do your research, maybe look around what guys around you are wearing, and in terms of their hair, maybe you can get a cut similar to that so that you pass better, maybe feel a bit more euphoric. For our fifth tip, I want to give you something that a lot of people ignore but still very significant, and that is smell. You may be asking yourself, how is smell supposed to help me pass? And that's a valid question, because we don't realize it a lot of times. However, humans work a lot more with their noses when we might think of what we do. But essentially, wearing scents that are considered more masculine, or in terms more feminine, will help you pass or pass less. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to wear male deodorants, colognes, male shampoo as well, anything that you find in the back of the corner that is marketed towards men with free scents. That is what you're going to go for, because humans, as I said, use their nose more than they realize. They go more for smell than what they realize. You may not be going around sniffing people, and I hope no one here is doing that, or anyone for that matter. But still, you can tell kind of subconsciously in your brain, so this will really be a subtle tip for helping you pass. Also, if you go there and you buy it and use kind of men's stuff, that can also kind of give you euphoria of being yay, men's stuff. Also, if you're in the closet, that's something that you can really do. No one will really notice if someone asks to say you like it more. So that's something that you can do regardless if you're out or not, or anything like that. For our sixth tip, we'll go for something that is very obvious, but at the same time I'll kind of go into the less obvious of the obvious, that being clothes. Obviously, we've all heard, wear big prints over your chest to hide it, wear dark colors, and those are tips that are definitely true. However, I do want to point out some things that may help you that you haven't heard before. That is male accessories like ties, bow ties, suspenders if it has to be. Those are really things that help, even if you aren't dressed male necessarily otherwise. Also things like just button-up shirts and regular, even if you just wearing them with like a regular pair of jeans, it will help you pass a lot better. Then oversized things, especially on suits, I want to say buy like pants that are too big, because people who are assigned male at birth have narrow hips compared to people who are assigned female at birth. So kind of buy them a bit bigger so that they aren't too tight around your hips. Also, wearing baggy clothes can help you hide your body shape more. Also, layering, if you have, for example, vests, this can really help. Sometimes you don't even need a binder if you're wearing, like, for example, a shirt like this, and then like a stiff vest over that. Most of the time people won't be able to tell. Yeah, those are really things that I want to point out. Also, sometimes like shopping in the men's section, so to say, can also give you that euphoria of once again, yay, and buying men's things. Also, this is another thing that you can do rather subtly, at least with certain things, like for example pants that you bought from the men's section of the store. That, for example, can really help you pass subtly again. The seventh thing I want to talk about is height. What if you're short, like me, and you're dysphoric about that? Not like me. In that case, there are special shoes that, for example, it's like the sole, and then under the sole on the inside of the shoe is a heel that kind of makes it look bigger. However, if you don't want to buy those, or you can't, buying regular boots helps. Just as a comparison, I'm going to put this onto one of my feet so that you can kind of I'm standing on the foot that, I'm standing on a foot without my boot and then with my boot. Those are a couple centimeters added. These are masculine shoes. They kind of really help you look more masculine. Also, one thing, okay, this might be weird to point out, but boots can make your feet look bigger, and so on average, men also have bigger feet, I've noticed, so bonus, I guess. Another thing that often gets ignored is your face shape. Men on average have more angular faces compared to women whose faces are more rounded. So what can you do to fix that? The first thing you can do to fix that is wear contour. However, be a bit careful, because if you wear like too much makeup to the point where someone else can tell that you're wearing makeup, it won't help you pass. It will just backfire and it will be for nothing. Then something that you can very much do is use hair to frame your face. I have that on my own face. Kind of the best way to demonstrate is, I guess, I have these little pieces on my sides that are kind of like this, and they kind of cut off in a straight angular line, therefore making my face look like we have these lines, if that makes sense. You can also draw on facial hair. I have a tutorial for that on my channel. If I can find it, I'll link it in the description. If not, it's somewhere in the short section of my channel. It's titled How to Draw on Facial Hair, or How to Fake Facial Hair, or something like that. But essentially, you just take like some mascara or an eyeliner, anything that is like dark and it smudges. You draw on your upper lip and then you smudge it out, and it kind of looks like you have the ability to grow facial hair. It kind of looks like stubble. You can also do that on like your chin, on your side thingies, not just on your upper lip. But in general, be a bit careful not to overdo it. Otherwise it will look just stupid and like you have paint on your face. So be a bit careful when you do that as well. Then thickening your eyebrows is something that really works. Just use an eyebrow pencil or an eyeliner if you don't have one. Just draw on your eyebrows, make them look thicker, make them look fuller, but not to the point where it's like noticeable. They should still look realistic. You can also dye your eyebrows. That's something that I do a lot. that can also kind of help give that illusion of darker, thicker eyebrows. Also, I'm currently testing out what's the best way to dye your body hair, if there's a way that's really good and worth the time and effort. So that's something you can also try out. If I figure out like the best way to do it or a good way to do it, then I'll obviously post a tutorial for that on here eventually. However, as I said, I'm not 100% sure if it works, what dyes work the best, what are the best results, what is the best time to leave it in. So like, you can play around with that a little bit. However, if you do that, to do it on places where it won't be noticed if you have like stains on your skin. So like if you want to try that out, try like your chest hair if you don't have any, or like your thighs, something like that, where you can try it out and it won't be noticed. Also, something that can also help to sharpen your jawline is there are certain jaw workouts you can find tutorials on YouTube again, or something that you can also do to strengthen the muscles in your jaw to make it look more angular is to chew a lot of gum. That is probably one of the easiest ones on this list. The 9th tip on this list is not a tip to pass necessarily, but it's definitely one that I found helps with dysphoria, and that is draw yourself as a guy, or if you can't draw, write yourself as a guy, imagine yourself as a guy, do some form of art or like projecting of yourself as a guy. I, for example, draw a lot of men. I kind of made up that OC that I kind of project myself onto, that I draw as a guy. That has really helped me with dysphoria. I've heard other people who has helped that with dysphoria. However, also heard some people where it backfired. So I'd say that's something that's worth to try out. However, it doesn't always have a 100% success rate. The 10th tip is kind of a tip that you can't do like in real life, but you can do online, and that is just pretend to be a cis guy online. Listen, telling untruths is something that is your strongest weapon and passing and having euphoria, okay? You don't even have to lie necessarily, just don't mention that you're trans online. That can really help. There are many apps or websites, messaging service, for example, where you can meet new people and you can just pretend to be a guy on there. You can make, for example, a YouTube account where you just pretend to be a cis guy, or like an Instagram account, something like that. And basically, if those people don't know that you are trans, they're gonna treat you as a cis guy, and that can really give you some euphoria, and that can really help. As our 11th and final tip, I want to go onto our body shape. I've kind of touched on that in working out and also kind of in the clothing section. However, one thing that I've really noticed that is underestimated is men on average, or people assigned male at birth, have a longer torso and shorter legs, meanwhile people who are assigned female at birth have longer legs and a shorter torso. How do we achieve that? Let me show you. Essentially, I'm wearing a pair of high-waisted pants. You may be like, how are high-waisted pants supposed to help? Because typically that's something that's more feminine. However, what you don't know is that I'm wearing these low-waisted, meaning all of this, it looks like my hips start here. However, actually I have like this much extra that makes my torso look a lot longer than my legs, which is something you can use as well to kind of get a more masculine body shape. So those were 11 tips that you can use to pass better. If you have any more uncommon or unconventional, or just in general any tips that help trans men pass or give them euphoria, leave them in the comments so that other people can also look at them and share them. With that, I want to say bye, have a nice day, or have a not nice day if you didn't like, and see you later.